Hi everyone, I'm Hayley, I'm always in the craft room, and I am thrilled to show you today my new dress, Simplicity 2246. I am really pleased with it, but before we get into all of the details, I need to apologise to Simplicity because in a previous vlog I kind of implied that there was a fault in this pattern with the front pattern piece for the placket, and I was wrong. The placket should hang over the hem by 1 centimetre, which makes sense to me because if it were overhanging, then you could sew the placket facing and the placket along here, flip it and turn it out. But my placket is not overhanging by 1 centimetre. I don't think it's me. Turns out I just don't know how to read instructions. The step I was missing was that I needed to hem the front of the dress first. Of course I did. It's so obvious once you think about it. One of my kind commenters pointed it out. So thank you so much. I'm so pleased to have this dress done. Now we will get into all of the construction details and the instructions because let's be honest, I did have some issues with those. But I'm gonna take this off and show you some of the internal details. So before we do that, I just wanted to give you a full proper look at the dress, and I'll tell you what I love and what I'm not so sure about. So the fit is just absolutely spot on for what I wanted. I had made this dress quite a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, in a size 14, and I knew that I really liked it. I wore that dress until it had a stain on it and had to be retired. So I knew the fit was good, but luckily this time I remembered that even though I think old garments fit me, in the last 10 years I have learned quite a lot about fitting. And so I thought at the time they fit, and they did fit as in I could wear them, but the fit wasn't always great. So before I cut this out, I did a square shoulder adjustment, which also raises the armholes. And I'll come forward a bit and you can check the fit around the shoulders and tell me what you think. And the other thing I changed was as I was sewing, I felt like the bust dart wasn't quite the right angle. So I had already cut out by this point, so I couldn't move the legs of the bust dart. But what I did do was pin what I thought would be a better angle, try it on, baste it, and so on and so forth until I got the bust dart going in what I think is the correct direction. In this busy fabric, it's hard to see, but I can feel it. It's going along there. Yeah, I'm pointing. Oh, I still can't do this reverse mirror image thing in the camera. So it's not going like that at all, Hayley. It's going like that. And it is pointing toward the fullest part of my bust. So I'm really happy I made those changes. I do usually shorten bodice pieces by up to 4 centimetres, but I wanted to wear this to the office and I didn't want to end up with the whole thing 4 centimetres shorter. I didn't think the fit was close enough that I needed to reduce it at the bodice and lengthen it at the skirt. So I just left it exactly the length on the pattern envelope and I'm really pleased with it. I had to go and get my water there because we are having yet another heat wave in the UK as I'm filming this. So I haven't actually worn this to the office yet. I wanted to wear it this week for a meeting, but I just knew I would be too warm, and I was right. So those are the things that I really like about it, along actually with the collar. I must mention the collar. It is a all-in-one collar. Like you cut out the collar with the standy bit built in, and I really like that effect. I think it's softer and a bit less structured, and that suits me because I am a fiddler when it comes to clothes. If something's interfering with my hair, I'm constantly rearranging it and it drives me mad. So I feel like with this style of collar, it's less standy uppy at the back and it feels softer and more relaxed to me, and I do prefer that. And I think for my workplace, this is absolutely fine. The things I'm not so keen on is honestly the print. I don't know. It is a very me fabric in that, like, look at that artwork behind me. I love the print. I love the colours. I did look at it in the shop and think that's a bit of a departure for me. The fabric, by the way, is a slight stretch cotton from Leon's in South Manchester. And I knew the print was a bit of a departure, but my wardrobe is getting a little bit one note, I have to admit. There are so many ditzy florals. 80% of it is navy or pale blue. I was deliberately trying to branch out, and I don't know how successful it's been. What do you think? To me, it's very loud. Yeah. So I don't hate it. I'm just not sure. It might be one of those things that as I wear it a few times, I come to realize, no, I feel great in it. Or I come to realize, oh, I often think about putting that on and I don't. And it probably is the print. So I didn't do any print matching or anything in a fabric with these bright flowers. I did desperately try to avoid two big boob flowers. Do you think I managed it? The front placket is running right down here. Yeah. I think I'd give myself a 6 out of 10 on that, but it definitely could have been worse, and it nearly was much worse. But I literally spotted it as I was laying everything out to cut it. The other thing I'm not sure about is the sleeves, and I have veered from the pattern here. So the pattern instructions, you know what? I told you I was going to get changed, and what did I think I was going to get changed into? I haven't got any other clothes here. So we're not getting changed. So these sleeves, the pattern has you simply turn, you know what? We're going to sit down. That's better. I do feel like I'm at a better head height now to talk to you. So the sleeves in the line drawing, you will see are just a really straight sleeve. But on me, they almost look like a bell sleeve. When I had everything done and tried it on to decide on sleeve length, my arms were just sticking out, and this probably is a me thing. I don't think there's anything odd about the pattern. I think it's a very standard sleeve, but I have like the skinniest little wrists. When I was pregnant, I wore those seasick bands that apply pressure to this point to alleviate morning sickness. I mean, who called it morning sickness? All day sickness, 9-month sickness. Anyway, I wore them, and I've got to say they did actually work pretty well. But I had to buy the children's ones because the adult ones didn't apply any pressure. They were loose on me. So when I say I have ridiculously, disproportionately small wrists, I mean like to that extreme. So on me, I just felt like the straight sleeves were looking like a bit of a bell sleeve, and my arms were just poking out in a really strange, like stick drawing of a person way. I have no idea if I'm making any sense, but let me just tell you, I didn't like the sleeves as they were. Now, the instructions on the sleeve hem were to turn a 7 centimetre hem. So there was quite a lot of leeway. When I put it on, I did turn initially the full 7 centimetre hem, and it made the sleeve hit right at my elbow. And I don't like that. I find it annoying because as I go about my day, I find sometimes it gets hooked on that side, sometimes it gets hooked on that side. And I can cope with either, but both arms have to be the same. So if I'm like writing and this arm does it, but this doesn't, it's like such a distraction. I have to get it all right. And it's a no from me. But I will say the modelled picture on the envelope is accurate. So that is what it looked like. It's just not my personal preference. So I decided I was definitely going to leave the sleeves longer. And because they'd given such a generous hem allowance, it would have been easy to just turn up a double hem and leave it as is, but I just wasn't liking this straight, abrupt end. I did think about drafting a cuff. You may recall there is none of this fabric left. In fact, I saved the scraps to show you. This is every single piece of this fabric I have left. So maybe I could have got one cuff out of that particular bit, but I'd need 4 cuffs, wouldn't I? So I came up with a similar but different solution, which was to turn a double hem and then insert a piece of elastic into it. And it's not my fave. In fact, I'm just going to tip you down a bit and then you'll get a better view. I do think it's fine. I think it looks all right. I don't think it's the best finish, especially for a work garment. I probably would have preferred a cuff if I'd had the fabric, but I still prefer it with the elastic than I did open. And the elastic length, I just guessed, and then I did have to make it tighter, and then I did have to make it narrower, because again, I'm fussy about things grabbing on me, and I wanted it to pull the sleeve in, but I didn't want it to apply any tension onto my arms because I find that such a distraction. So let's talk then about the instructions and these hem allowances, because once we discovered where I was going wrong on this front placket piece in that I needed to hem it, I looked back through the instructions because I thought, I wonder if that step was just skipped or if I'm just an idiot and I didn't notice it. And the latter is the correct answer there. But I've got to say, commercial pattern instructions and me, I find them so hard to read. And I don't mean like the words, I mean how it's laid out. So when I look at an envelope pattern like this, I assume, and tell me in the comments below if I'm wrong, I assume that I can interchange all the different parts of this pattern. I can look at it and go, well, I want the straight front, but I prefer a puff sleeve. Or I want the gathered skirt, but I want a long sleeve. And I have always approached envelope sewing patterns like all of those different bits are interchangeable. Hem lengths, different sleeve options, V-necks versus round necks. And so because of that, it's very rare that I make up view A or view B or view C. Quite often I'm making basically view A, but with the V-neck from view C, or mostly view B, but I want the sleeves from view A. The way the pattern instructions are laid out is very much view A and C do this, only for view B do this, but it doesn't tell you which part of view B it's talking about. So it could mean the fact that that's got a separate bodice piece and a gathered skirt, but it also could be talking about the sleeves. When I see these kind of options in independent pattern instructions, usually instead it says, start here for all views, do this. For short sleeves, do this. For long sleeves, do this. For the gathered skirt, proceed to step 27. For the cut-on skirt, do this, this and this. And I think that's why I skipped the instruction. And it also doesn't have headings for every part of it. And what drives me mad is that some things it does have headings. Sometimes it says like sleeves. And sometimes it says like attaching the skirt. But there was not a heading for hemming. So I was skimming through the instructions going, oh, for view A and C do this, for view D do this. And hidden underneath a load of other instructions was hem the dress. And then the next one with a heading said, apply the placket. I really think it should have been either part of the next step or it should have been highlighted with a heading. Anyway, that's just me. And as I say, I could be wrong that all the parts are interchangeable. As you will know if you've watched this channel for a while, I take patterns as like suggestions, jumping off points. I'm not one to look at the front, choose one and replicate it exactly. That's not why I sew. If I just wanted, a picture I saw, I'd probably shop ready to wear. For me, the fun is adding all the different elements, matching the different fabrics to what I think would suit the specific design elements. So yeah, that's my tale about the instructions. Otherwise, they were good, except when I went back to check that I should have hemmed it first, yes, it did clearly say in the instructions, fold up the hem, fold down 6mm, and then stitch. But it didn't say what the hem allowance was for that first fold. So I had to go and get the pattern piece out again and look on it where they had written the hem allowance, and it was something quite strange. So this really annoyed me for a couple of reasons. Firstly, how hard would it be to just write, turn up the hem X centimetres, turn in 6mm? But also, I just don't think that's the best way to do a hem. Personal preference, I'm sure, but I just prefer a double turned hem where the bit that you turn underneath is the full depth. I think it gives you a heftier, chunkier, weightier hem. And if I were to turn a very deep hem, turn in just 6mm at the top and then top stitch from the outside, what do you think the chances are that I would catch that fold all the way around? For me, the chances are low. Whereas if I double turn a hem, of course, I'm not going to have that issue. So yeah, I saw what the hem allowance was and then I went my own way with the hem. With the collar, you did have to obviously turn it under along the back. I do wish I could take this off to show you. I'm going to see if I've got any other clothes hanging about. Hang on. Literally the only other clothes I have in this craft room are all in the alterations pile and in various stages of ripped to bits. But I did have my robe here because anybody else basically sew in their underwear and constantly try stuff on. So that's what we're going with. And it's kind of on theme, isn't it? Anyway, back to this collar. So it's all one piece and you apply it right sides together, sew around the edge, flip it in and then turn under here. And it does suggest that you hand stitch that down. I don't mind hand stitching at all. I find it quite enjoyable. However, I don't trust my hand stitching to hold up in my washing machine. So I top stitched, and the way I did that was from the outside when I went all the way around. Can you see the top stitching on there? I got a pretty good thread match, didn't I? When I top stitched all the way around, I went across that edge as well. And I'm so proud of myself for this. I was sat there pinning it all, doing a pin every 5 centimetres, and then had a word with myself and said, Hayley, invest 5 minutes in pinning along that fold every centimetre. Just put all the pins in there and save yourself 10 minutes unpicking it and redoing it when you've not caught the fold. And for possibly the first time in my sewing career, I caught all of it on the first pass. It's the smug face again. Now, when I was top stitching this collar all the way around, I did know that this fabric would cause me some issues because it has quite a bit of stretch actually. I hope you can't hear this rustle. It's quite a stiff fabric and it is quite noisy. So if I hold up the middle of the dress and show you, that's a decent amount of stretch for a cotton, isn't it? And as I was about to top stitch the collar, I knew that even with the IDT on my machine, which shifts both layers at the same speed, if I went around this collar in a box, when I got back to that bit, I knew there was going to be a little bit of excess fabric. So I started the top stitching at this point at the centre back, because once that's folded down you wouldn't even see it, and I went out from that point around the collar and back up, and I'm glad I did it because there is the tiniest of puckers, but because of where it fell, just so happens to be on a purple bit, you totally can't see. So I'm absolutely thrilled I thought to do that, because normally I would start stitching a collar like at the point, which that's not a good idea, because then normally I start it with long thread tails, pull them through, tie them off, because back stitching there would look bad. But why would I ever start there when it's so front and centre? So from now on, I'm always going to start top stitching collars from the centre back. So the rest of the construction I did mainly on the overlocker. I left it white because it's a printed fabric, and stretch cotton is not my favourite to sew with, I've got to be honest. It was a bit tricky to handle, but I think it's going to pay dividends in the wearing, both in terms of comfort and because it doesn't seem to crease. And I particularly dislike spending 10 minutes ironing a cotton blouse for work and then my seatbelt making it all wrinkled there. And I've tried wearing my seatbelt in different positions, but for maximum comfort and to make it do its important job of saving my life, it needs to be in the middle. So I'm hoping, as I say, I haven't worn it to the office yet, that will really mitigate that, and it will make the struggles of the stretch fabric all worth it. The buttons I showed you the other week are from my local haberdashery, and I'm so pleased with the colour match. Can you even pick them out? So they're purple and they're grey, they're square, and I did spend quite a lot of time matching each button to each section of the dress, and I'm really, really pleased with how that looks. So overall, a really successful garment. I'm so thankful to you all for working out where I was going wrong with the placket. I'm really pleased with how neatly I constructed it, and I do think it's going to be super useful for the office, and I'm sure it will take me into autumn as well, since it is long sleeved. My only reservation is the boldness of the print, but it's fun to step outside your comfort zone every now and then. That's it from me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.